Are we on? All right. Well, it's 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started this morning. Before we get started, I have a few items to cover. The Planning Commission now utilizes speaker request forms. If you would like to speak on an item, please complete a speaker request form located on the table in the back of the chambers and return it to the planning staff located on the lower right-hand side of the dais here. So the exceptions to that, if you are the applicant on an item, we don't require the speaker request form for that item. And as a reminder, all new conditional use permits, conditional use permit reviews, minor planned unit developments, construction permits, and mining permits are not heard by the Planning Board of Commissioners unless an appeal is filed with the Planning Department. So just a few items to cover before we get started. Welcome everyone to the March 9th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. We'll go ahead and recommendations from the Planning Commission on certain items from this agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on March 17th, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. The Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, like I indicated, which are available in the Commission chambers during the meeting. With that, Jerry, go ahead and note the roll call. It looks like we're all here with the exception of Jim. Was he supposed to be gone today?
I didn't have him out.
Okay. He indicated he was gone this week. All right. First item on the agenda is approval of the February 24th, 2020 minutes. Are there any corrections, changes, items to note? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second on the approval of the February 24th, 2020 minutes. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is approval of the agenda. Today's consent agenda includes items 3 through 7. We have regular items 8 through 10, followed by construction permit item 11, and our normal commission items 12 through 16 on the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda today? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of today's agenda.
I so move.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Interim Planning Director. The consent agenda. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item number 3 is conditional use permit review CU 1803 for Lisa Touche and Tracy Tibidion to review a shop building to be used as temporary living quarters while building a single-family residence. Staff recommends to end conditional use permit CU 1803 with the applicant's concurrence. Item number 4 is conditional use permit review CU 1902 for Greg and Angelina Anderson to review a vacation home rental on the subject property in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 1902 with conditions. Item number 5 is conditional use permit CU 1901 for Terry Saylor to allow for a vacation home rental on the subject property in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to continue conditional use permit 1901 to the March 23rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting with 5 conditions. Item number 6 is conditional use permit CU 1933 for Rob Livingston, KW Lindsay is the owner, to allow a recreational vehicle park on the subject property to include RV sites, a gas station, a convenience store, and a bar in a highway service district. Staff recommends to continue conditional use permit 1933 until no later than the May 18th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting in order for staff to receive all of the information to satisfy the requirements under Section 306, which includes, but is not limited to, a construction time schedule, DOT approach permit, on-site wastewater treatment system plan, and an approved water rate permit, with 1 condition. And finally, item 7 is mining permit review MP 1903 for Cody Shad to review the removal of gypsum to be hauled off-site. And staff recommends approval of the extension of mining permit MP 1903 with conditions.
Thank you. Are there any items that staff wishes to pull from the consent agenda?
Yes, we wish to pull item 7, and if we could place that after item 10, the applicant wishes to pull it, and he would like to be here to discuss it, and he's on his way.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
The applicant requested staff pull it, and he is on his way because he would like to amend a condition on that request and to be put after item number 10.
Thank you.
Okay. No, item 7 is it?
Yes.
Are there any items that membership wishes to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none. For the folks in the audience, we will vote on items 3 through 6 with one vote. Are any of those items items that you guys wish to speak on during this process before we vote? Seeing none. The consent agenda would be items 3 through 6, removing item number 7. Item number 7 will move after item number 10. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion on those items? Anybody in the audience on those items? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Brings us to item 8.
Good morning, Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. Item number 8 is Layout Plan 20-03. It's to create lots A and B of Whispering Wind subdivision. The applicant is Chuck Voorhees, and the size of the lot current lot is 4.82 acres. The applicant wishes to subdivide the subject property into 2 lots. Lots A and B, the proposed legal description would be lots A and B of Whispering Wind subdivision. This was routed around for public comment. There really wasn't any comment back. The county environmental planner did note for on-site that there is multiple septic systems on the property. Therefore, percolation tests of the other lot and profile hole would not be needed because there is adequate septic. Currently, it's zoned to plan unit development, so it would not require a rezone. However, this would trigger a review of the plan unit development to change the legal descriptions of the plan unit development. Right now, it's just the existing lot 1. It'd have to be put on both lots A and B if it was subdivided, and it would have to be amended due to there's 8 RV sites on proposed lot B. Those sites would be moved over to lot A, and then lot B he's subdividing to put a single family residence on the property, kind of like a caretaker's residence for the plan unit development. There's RV sites and cabins and stuff there. So staff is recommending approval of layout plat 20-03 with 10 conditions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this item? Go ahead, Kathy.
So I just want to make sure I understand this. So the RV lots, the RV spots that are right now shown on Lot B, the PUD will be revised so that so Lot B won't contain any RV sites, that those sites will get moved over to what now then would be Lot A?
Yeah, the applicant told staff that those RV sites would move over to Lot A, and he's going to be placing a single-family residence onto
B,
Lot B. So that would be something that would be amended in the PUD to either allow on 2 RV sites on that property. It would just depend on how the PUD is approved where those RV sites would be, but he wants to put them on Lot A.
So that's step 2 then to amend the PUD.
Yep, once it goes
Right,
through
the
and the lots
plating
are
is done,
created and
yeah.
everything, yep, then it can be reviewed and amended.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Further questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on item number 8? Seeing none, staff is recommending approval of layout plan LPL 20-03 with, it appears, 10 conditions. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of layout plan LPL 20-03 with 10 conditions. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 9.
Good morning, Christina Proetti, County Planner. All right, item number 9 is conditional use permit request 20-02. This is to allow for a vacation home rental on the subject property in a low residential district. The applicant, Rob Hammerquist, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow an existing 2-bedroom house to be used as a vacation home rental on the subject property. All right, sorry, I had to fix that slide. The lot is currently zoned as low-density residential with approximately 1.96 acres. Access is taken from Songquist Lane. There is some special flood hazard area on the subject property, which is located on the eastern portion of the lot. However, the single-family residence that's being requested to use as a vacation home rental is not in any special floodway or flood area. The lot contains one single-family residence, one gazebo, one shed. The applicant has complied with all of the application submittal requirements for a HR as listed in the Pennington County Zoning Ordinance, Section 319. The South Dakota Department of Natural Resources has approved the vacation home rental for a maximum overnight occupancy of 4 persons. There are no other items of concern for this property, and staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this item?
Christina?
Go ahead.
If I can, Chair. County Planner Director, there's floodway on the subject property.
There is, it's on the eastern portion. I actually don't have that map on the slide, but in the packet, page 2 of 8, it shows where the special floodway is and where the vacation home rental is in accordance with that.
And where's the, Rich, did you see where the house is going to be?
It's right here.
Okay, sorry. Couldn't tell where the
It
house
looks like
was.
it's up a ways from the creek.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, does anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item?
I'd like, Mr. Hammerquist, are you here? Didn't you come, if you'd come up to the podium, sir?
Yeah, please come to the podium.
Didn't you come up before on this issue when you were subdividing, or was that you subdividing and saying that this, and maybe it wasn't you, said this property was going to be used for you and not, for other people? And maybe it
No,
wasn't you.
we subdivided a piece of property, or some of our property up here about 6 years ago. But
Maybe, was it the guy in the, sorry, sir, you never came up here and spoke? For some reason, I thought this property, because it was by the bridge, and I had asked a question because it's in an area where there's floodway. And as you see, the bridges and stuff, there wasn't, you're adding more people to an area where there's basically one way in, one way out, if I'm correct.
well, it's not adding any more people. It's only approved for 4 people, and if we rent it out, we wouldn't be there.
Right. I just, because I was here with the flood and stuff, I'm not always okay with people having, unless it's your family that you're putting in danger, and you're not putting other people in danger that don't know the history and don't know, basically, that you're gonna be renting to them, and there's one way in and one way out, and that, when that floods, I truly believe, or if there's something that happens with that bridge, you're putting other people's lives in danger. So,
Well, I was there for the flood of 72, and it all went opposite of our property off to the east. You can kind of, I'm assuming this is the floodway here. It goes to the east. Our place sits probably about 40 feet above the creek.
right, but it's right next to the creek. Whether it be a flood or a fire. I've been saying this for years. If emergency happens and you have this many people in an area, what's going to happen? And can legally, we say, okay, these people will get out, it'll be fine. If the bridge is destroyed or something happens, and can they get out with that many people in the area safely? So those are my concerns. I'm not against vacation home rentals, sir, at all. So my issue is that if it was your family there, it'd probably be different, and maybe there's somebody else in that area that's doing the same thing, and maybe that's who I said it to. But again, those are my concerns. How about that?
Okay. Further questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Kathy.
This may not apply to, my question may not apply to this particular application because this application was submitted some time ago and it's been in the works. But, you know, my understanding is that the Board of Commissioners did pass the moratorium.
No,
You did not pass it.
no, ma'am.
Okay, so what's the status of that? Is it,
It's being continued. We're going to work with Brittany and Michelle, me and Commissioner Ross Connect, and figure out what are really the issues with VHR instead of putting a moratorium on them, trying to find the solution. Because again, I don't believe that. I believe there may be some issues with vacation home rentals, but not the ones that have been brought to pass with Commissioner Ross Connect. I think there needs to be some changes on me personally for if you're not registered, what kind of fine should people pay? Because you're making money off something that you're coming in to ask for forgiveness after the fact because you decided that you didn't want to register it at the time. And then the other is that maybe we need permits for vacation home rentals so we know how many we have basically in Pennington County. So it's not a big fee or anything, just a permit of something or some kind, a fee to know that we do have them and that people know that you have to get a permit through us. Those are my,
right,
personally,
gotcha, okay.
but like I said, I'm not against vacation home
but-
rentals. I think we have lots of rentals in town, Rapid City or otherwise, that sometimes, like I tell people, I wish I had the vacation home rentals next to me instead of full-time rentals, so.
Yeah, so, but the upshot of it is that the moratorium did not go anywhere, so that's
No.
kind of off the boards. Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Thank you, sir, for coming up. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 20-02 with with 17 conditions. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second?
Motion and second for approval of conditional use permit 20-02 with 17 conditions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
No,
So 5-1. Motion carries. Brings us to item number 10.
All right, item number 10 is Major Planned Unit Amendment 20-01. This is to amend an existing planned unit development to allow an existing 3-bedroom, single-family residence to be used as a vacation home rental. The subject property is currently zoned as a PUD with approximately 3.86 acres. Access is taken off of South Rochford Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the subject property. The lot contains one single-family residence with a loft and deck and one detached garage. The applicant has complied with all of the application submittal requirements for the VHR as listed in the Pennington County Planning and Zoning, Section 319. The South Dakota Department of Natural Resources approved the vacation home rental for a maximum overnight occupancy of 6 persons. Section 213B2 of the Pennington County zoning ordinance states that permitted uses in a PUD may include single-family dwellings, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, apartments, townhouses, patio houses, mobile homes, neighborhood commercial, school sites, park, wind and solar energy systems in accordance with Section 317, and vacation home rentals in accordance with Section 319. There are no other items of concern for this property, and staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Are there questions for staff on this item? I have one. It appears to me on the call-in list here on the I don't know what you would call this, the vacation home rental requirements, the Bell Pines cabin thing, where it has the owners and it gives this call tree where you call this guy first, this guy second, and this person third. And the local contact is the third person on the list as opposed to the applicant who must not live nearby. Is that right? And is there any supplemental requirements for having the primary contact be the first person to call? It just seemed odd to me.
I know the local contact has to live within a certain 50-mile radius of the vacation home rental,
Okay.
but I'm not
But
certain
we
of
don't,
any.
we don't dictate, let me ask this a different way. We don't dictate the order in which they call if there's concerns with various things in the cabin or,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment as I read through this. It indicated in there that, as I understand it, when the gentleman purchased the property, that his intended use was allowed when he wrote up the offer to purchase, but then when he actually purchased it, it was not allowed, which would mean somewhere in the interim, notice had been served to the prior owner on the change of the zoning. Is that correct?
From what I understand it is that his realtor had spoke with him and told him all those things from Exit Realty. That's what the letter's from. I don't believe anyone came and spoke with us regarding anything. Whatever they were zoned in the past, whether it was general ag or PUD, they would have had to have applied for something and send letters or notices or put a sign or something. So I think maybe he had just spoken with the realtor, but not planning and zoning about what needed to be done.
I see. Well, it sounds like 14 years have passed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Further questions for staff? Seeing none, I have a speaker request form for Jason Steele. Sir, if you'd like to come up. When you get to the podium, please state your name for the record.
My name is Jason Steele.
Go ahead.
I am one of the property owners directly next to this property. I live there full time. When I bought the property, it was stated to me that this property was not, we have covenants and you're not allowed to rent. And I have a letter from the Pennington County Planning Department dated October 3rd, 2007, which was before I bought the property. It was in 2009. That the planned unit development be used for residential use only and that no home occupations be allowed. This homeowner has been renting without a conditional use permit for quite some time. He has fibbed about it. He had cousins over, friends over, whatever. The other adjoining property owner is also against allowing this. They live in Iowa and weren't unable to get here because of health issues. I've had problems ranging from people throwing their deer gut pile behind my garage, four-wheelers tearing up the driveway, loud drunks on the deck that are so bad that my fiance and I can't be out on the deck. Trailers blocking the driveway. I am a firefighter and EMT. You know, if I get called in the middle of the night, I can't not be able to get out of my yard. And the main thing is that he knows that he's not supposed to rent, and he's trying to get this changed. I live there full time, and I have to put up with this.
Go ahead.
Couple questions. Your name again, sir?
Pardon me?
What's your name again?
Jason
Sorry.
Steele.
Jason? Can you show us where you live?
Thank you.
Thank you for pulling that up. Okay, so tell me how you have the covenants. How is there a covenants on this property?
I have a list of them right here.
Meaning all these lots and stuff that were sold in this area had a covenants on them for
Yeah,
no
it was a
vacation?
Yes, ma'am, it was a planned development, and these covenants were based on the original developer being able, right there, oops, sorry, being able to develop this property. That's why the covenants were drawn up.
Okay.
So right there
So
is that is my property right there.
And there was how many lots in this PUD?
3.
So that'd be,
Just the 3, see?
The one that's outlined in red right now,
okay,
that one is the people from Iowa. The one in the middle is Tushins, and that one is mine.
and the covenant said on those 3 lots, when they were doing the PUD, that there would be no, basically, repeat what you said.
Residential only.
The people from Iowa, they don't live in the house,
It's a vacation home for them.
but they don't rent it out when they're not there.
Absolutely not. They've had problems with people that have been renting, parking trailers on their property. I've got emails and texts from them that where we've been communicating. I realize that I can't, admit that, but they really felt bad that they couldn't be here, but they had a bad medical emergency. It says the planned unit development be used for residential use only, and that no home occupations or large animals be allowed on the 3 lots. And that is, like I said, dated October 3rd, 2007, from the Pennington County Planning Department.
Actually put a copy of the recorded covenants in with the staff report at the end of the report. It's in there.
Okay, so we personally, in the government or whatever, we don't recognize covenants in a sense, but then, when we started having vacation home rentals, what we had said on one in Hill City, we just talked about this morning, that when they told us they didn't have a covenants, meaning when you buy something, it's kind of nice to know, that these people do or don't in this area. We're not supposed to recognize it, but I take it as, you knew ahead of time, basically, they wanted to keep this residential. So if they do have a covenants, then I do recognize it when it comes to selling or buying property as a rental, depending on how you wanted to use it. I know things come to pass and things change, but you knew ahead of time, is what it's saying to me, that they didn't want vacation home rentals, or they didn't want it as, commercial property.
Well, absolutely, and that was one of the selling factors for the property, because I didn't want to have to, there's no way to vet people on VRBO. I've had a lot of problems with renters, and I don't care, what is said. When people are contacting you over the internet, you don't know who they are. And I live there. I have to put it up with it 365 days a year.
How many, how often is the home rented?
Quite often. You can go on the VRBO website, and it's got remarks from people, and it shows the dates they were there. It's almost constant, especially in the summertime.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding that home occupation does not encompass vacation rentals. you know, a home occupation would be somebody, well, I've had people complain about giving piano lessons, but the vacation rental, they're still using it for residential purposes. I mean, not that this is right or wrong,
It still is a
but
business.
yeah, I'm just saying that the definition, as I've come to understand it, is that home occupation does not encompass vacation home rentals. That's just my understanding.
So, Miss Sandy, when I think of home occupation, it means business to me, that they, I think is, if I'm correct, as a business or have a business in that,
Yes.
because they want to use it as residential. So I get it in one sense, but you know, whether we call it a business or not, legally, we can't as a county or whatever. It's the same as renting. They just call it BHR.
Yeah.
Renting your property as a commercial business, because that's what I do for a living,
Yeah.
besides do hair. So they just call it a BHR. We just won't, in South Dakota, recognize that it's actually a commercial business. So.
Further questions?
Chairman?
Go ahead, Kathy.
You know, this is one of those areas that, I mean, it seems to me, should be addressed in some fashion through the revisions of the ordinance.
Yes.
Because to me, there's two issues at play. One is the terminology and you know, how these covenants have come to be and so on. And, you know, we've been, we've been schooled in knowing that, you know, covenants are a contract between the parties, and so that it's not our job to enforce those. And I certainly understand that. But then there's the other issue of nuisance. And, you know, we hear reports quite often. I mean, the ones that there is no nuisance complaints we don't hear about, but nonetheless, we hear these nuisance complaints, and in many cases, the nuisance complaints were never formally filed. You probably never formally filed.
I actually did make called the police, for a trailer in the yard
Okay,
this
so you
last
did
summer, just
at
because it
least
was
filed
getting
one
so
time.
bad.
Yep.
Yep.
But it just seems to me that there should be a standard condition added to these that recognize, and so that when it comes up on review, which it comes up, I think, is it annually, reviews?
Annually, and then we extend it.
Right, but
yeah.
at least initially, it's an annual review, that if there's violations of the nuisance ordinance, then that needs to be considered in these reviews. Because right now, the review process, the review process is really looking down these conditions and saying, are they in compliance? I mean, essentially, that's correct, right?
Yep.
And so we don't have a lot of, of latitude, I guess, or room to address these nuisance. But I wholeheartedly agree with you that if the owner, operator, whatnot can't manage their renters so that um, they you know can minimize or eliminate these nuisance complaints, well, they shouldn't be in the business because it's not fair to the neighbors. And you know, that's not in the ordinance, that as I understand it right now, that we can really think about these nuisance claims, complaints, but I do think that needs to be added, and as a standard, it's just one of the standard conditions, so that upon review, we can take these and do something about them.
I agree with you. One of the reasons I haven't called a lot is because I deal with law enforcement through fire and EMS, and it's an hour for them to get out there.
Right.
And if I got some drunken people on the deck cussing and swearing, so I have to go back inside, they're probably passed out inside by the time law enforcement gets there.
Right.
If I've got four-wheelers tearing up the driveway, they aren't gonna be there when law enforcement gets there.
Right. No, I understand.
And I don't wanna put that extra burden, I guess to me selfishly, when they've got better things to do than come out for a noise complaint or somebody tearing around on a four-wheeler or trespassing or whatever. But if that's what it takes, I mean, if, they're gonna get real sick of me if I call every time I
Yeah.
got a complaint.
And I'm not suggesting that I hope that's not what it takes, quite frankly, but I don't really know, the rules and requirements well enough to really know that. But I do think that there needs to be we need to have some tools in our toolbox to deal with vacation home rentals that have proven to be, not good neighbors.
Right.
And,
Well, that's already been proven. I can't prove that to you, but it's been proven to me. So the easy way out of this is just not to grant the permit.
Yes.
Why change what is there already?
right,
Once when we bought the property, when I bought the property and when, the Tunisons from Iowa bought the property, um, there wasn't supposed to be any vacation rental, so why should it change now?
well, and that's because I think we can deny this, but we can't deny it on the grounds of the covenants because we don't enforce the covenants.
I get that.
Yeah.
So, sir, how long has this vacation home rental been running?
I'm not sure. I bought the property in 2009.
Okay.
And I had trail cams set up. It was a vacation home for me at the beginning. And I would come out and I would pull the cards out and there'd be people walking up my driveway and peering in my house, which was a little disconcerting, to say the least. I mean, these three homes are there, but other than that, you gotta walk quite a ways to get to it. So who are these people that are peeking in my window?
So what's your guesstimate of how long it's been running? You've been there
At least
since,
5 years.
okay,
I can't remember. If you look on VRBO website, it shows he's had it on there for years.
okay. So he is registered as a vacation home rental.
On VRBO he is. He's never had a conditional use permit as far as I know.
Okay. When did we start doing conditional use permits for VHRs then? Okay. Thank you.
I've lived there full time since 2015 and it was before that. I know for a fact.
Okay, thank you.
Does he have a conditional use permit right now for the vacation home?
Well, it's a PUD, so we'd need an amendment to the PUD.
And then would he need one beyond that, or would he be okay? Does he not need a conditional use if he's within a PUD that has one?
Because
That
it's
has allowed
different,
use.
since he's PUD, they don't need a conditional use, but they need to amend the PUD.
So my next question is on the planned unit development. Do they need, is there like a majority of the homeowners that need to sign off on a planned unit development change or no?
No, just notices for this.
Did you get response back from the neighbors?
I think, we've only heard from you, I believe.
I did call
I haven't
in.
heard from the neighbor to the east, or to the west, sorry.
So these three lots are in the PUD.
Just those three.
So these three lots are in the PUD, and he's, on this lot, he wants a vacation home rental on this existing lot.
In the center there.
And you said he didn't need to get a conditional use permit, he's just looking for an amendment, basically?
Yeah.
To allow a vacation home rental?
Yeah.
Because you don't need a conditional use permit in a PUD.
PUDs, yeah.
You need an amendment.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Sandy.
in view of all of this discussion, I would recommend we either deny the permit or we postpone it until we get a letter in writing or something from the gentleman who lives in Iowa. And then we've got two out of the three protesting. And therefore, I don't feel it should be changed if two of the three owners within the PUD object to it.
Okay. Further comments, questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I know this was brought up a moment ago, but home occupations, condition 2, what exactly does that mean again? Can someone explain what home occupations is defined as?
Well, I think with how it's written now in the zoning ordinance, home occupation would be if you're running a business in your home, gunsmithing or anything inside your home where a bill is sent to you or you get your mail for that business. at that residence.
I see, occupation as in a business occupation, not, okay. So with this PUD being to allow a vacation home and still having condition 2 to say no home occupations, that's not in conflict?
Right now, how it's written, I
Apparently
think
not.
they mean two different things.
Okay.
So normally, when the state's attorney is here, she would come up and she would explain that the courts have come down on this in several instances where the use of homes as vacation homes is a residential purpose, even though and it's not seen as necessarily a commercial establishment or a business. It's a residential purpose. So the purpose and the intent of the home and those types of things um, is is separate. And albeit that is confusing, that's typically the way the courts have come down on this item, and that's why that's why this is confusing and troublesome for everyone. I'm leaning towards Sandy's recommendation here, simply because I thought with PUDs, and we had one similar to this out on Radar Hill Road where there was something separated. Am I thinking of the same corners there where, and you have this original intent? Someone comes along and says, I'd like to do this. And then properties change hands over the years. And now all of a sudden, you got one person, he wants to change one thing for everybody in the association, or in this instance, the PUD. We don't get into homeowners associations. We don't get into covenants here. Those are private contracts between the individuals, like Kathy said earlier. But in this instance, I agree that we should be looking for a majority of the folks in the neighborhood saying yay or nay on something that ultimately applies to everybody in that area. So kind of a slope for the PUD. Just my comments.
So is the motion to continue? Is that
There,
where
there,
we're
there
going?
hasn't been a motion yet, just discussion.
I'll make the motion to continue till, do we need 2 weeks or something? You do, but we can still make a motion and change that or amend that motion based on that motion, sir. So my motion would be to continue, are we thinking 2 weeks?
March 23rd.
I'll second.
Say it again.
March 23rd.
March 23rd would be my motion.
Motion to continue the item to March 23rd. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
On the audience.
I don't think we have any further questions for you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, if you'd like to come up and state your name for the record. And
Hello, my name is Dennis Tushin. I'm one of the property owners. I own it along with 3 of my brothers. I'm just going to start going clear back to some of the things you guys brought up about the original purchase. Now, when we bought the property, we bought it through Mike Alley, through Exit Realty. And one of the conditions of us purchasing the property was that we'd be able to do vacation rentals. And that, I have all the paperwork here. It was zoned agricultural at the time we purchased, or we made the purchase offer. We closed within 30 days. Within that 30 days, Ralph Corey, the developer, rezoned it to a planned unit development with single family housing. And I have copies of all that. Actually, the the changes he made, I closed on August 26th. He made these on August 25th and mailed them to me, certified mail. I was out here to close. We closed the next morning. When I got home, I received his certified letters. Not knowing what single family meant or anything, I called Mike Alley from Exit Realty. He told me, don't worry about it. He said, right now there is no rules in place for doing vacation rentals, which of course that stuff didn't pass until 2012, which you guys mentioned earlier. So he said, don't worry about it. Doesn't mean anything because there's nothing in place. He said, you guys go ahead, do whatever you're doing. Don't worry about it. So them all went through and passed. Here's where the planned unit development that was changed from agricultural to the planned unit development on, well, this is the let me see the dates on this. This was a change on August 13th of 2007 was the 2-year meeting of that. 2005, right? Yep, so that's what I'm saying, it was 2 years later. But so that's just history of it. Just because I was brought up earlier. So going back to some of Jason's concerns, Jason's my neighbor. He mentioned quite a few things in there to make me look really, really bad. It makes the people staying in my place look really, really bad. But I want to address some of them. First of all, the deer leg that was thrown on his property. That was my nephew. He threw it over there. Jason come up there, yelled at him. It was up, went up and cleaned it up. It was not a renter. As far as his cameras catching people on his property, if you want to zoom in on that property, so all them driveways, all the driveways there are all my property, where that property line is. So most of the time that's me. We had agreements between the 3 properties that we would do checks on each other's properties when we're there, when nobody's there. And we'd walk over and look at their properties. If he saw somebody looking in his windows, which I don't know how his camera faces that way away from his property to the driveway, but we would always go check on each other's properties. He brought that up after the fact when he started getting mad at me and not liking me. And then he's like, "You're probably peeked in my windows." And I said, "Jason, we had an agreement to check on each other's properties. If you don't want me to do that anymore, we'll stop." And that. Sorry. As far as the trailer parked in the driveway, that's my driveway going across there. We're out there with 4-wheelers and stuff. That's where we park it. We can't get up into our driveways. We park in the lower driveway. And that's plenty wide enough. It was parked with the wheels in the grass. He had plenty of room to get around it. He addressed me about it a week after it happened. It was my brother who was there, not a renter. He addressed me about it and said, "There's a trailer parked there. I had to get around it." I'm like, "It's my property." "Well, I had to drive around it." And I'm like, "So what? It's my property. I can park on it. You have an easement to cross it and get across my property. If you get across it, there's no issue, right?" Well, he continues to think I can't park on my property, I can't use my property. And, he stated that he called the police about a trailer park on my property this summer. Again, why can't I park on my property? It's my property, right? There is a covenant in there that says no trailers below the tree line for more than a week. So they don't want abandoned vehicles sitting there. The one he called about this summer, he called me, he's drunk off his ass, called me yelling the F word so many times, and that trailer had been there for literally 1 hour. 1 hour. Because the person who parked there, I told him where to park it. And this time, I told him to back up off the driveway completely onto the grass so he wouldn't complain. Sure enough, he called me up complaining. So I can tell you right now, most of his complaints are about me. And he's going to continue to complain whenever he wants to about me, just because he doesn't want me renting. Not that there's problems. I have never had a problem. I have never had the other neighbors complain. And as a matter of fact, I just talked to them. I'm from Sioux Falls there in Iowa. I just talked to her. I ran into her in the store last week and discussed this all with her. She's totally on my side. I don't know where he gets his story from, but they're afraid of him. They were telling me how he pointed an AK-47 with the crosshairs at his head.
That's a lie. That's libel and slander.
Guys, enough.
You can talk
Enough.
to them.
Let's keep it just on the facts.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm just trying to state the facts that, he can tell you guys all the stuff he wants to make me look bad. Now,
Sir, I'll stop you just for a second. So
Sure.
the bottom line is the continuance is about if your neighbor from Iowa decided that also with this man you're talking about,
sure,
that they wanted this to be happening in this PUD. That's the bottom line. So when this continuance, when you come back, is about if your other neighbor, and you're saying they like you, writes a letter and says, "I'm okay with this," then we just said it, majority, it's gonna go to your side or theirs, depending. The only unfortunate thing is this person that's in the middle of all this,
sure.
if you've had letters or any kind of correspondence with this person that this was okay, that you and your property hasn't been a nuisance, and that you're all in agreement, that finds the solution. That's the bottom line. Between you two, that's not our issue. Our issue today is, what we're thinking is those 3 lots in a PUD, and what's the bottom line?
Well, let me
Okay.
ask this question. So why is this PUD different than any other PUDs? Because I've been watching these meetings for weeks because I've never been to one, just to get an idea of what goes on here. And I've seen multiple of the same thing come up. Why is it that this one is gonna come down to not you guys voting, but him and my other neighbor voting whether or not they want me to do this? What makes this one different, and why are they deciding and not you? Because the law says I can do rentals in a single family, development in a PUD. So why is this that they get to decide, not the law says I can?
So on this PUD, like anybody else's, we listen to everybody and we hear the whole story. And since I've been on city council and county commission, we do it by issue, not by yours and his and those others. Everything has different circumstances in it, and that's why it's called a PUD, sir.
Sure.
PUDs are all different. So if this board decides that this one's different and they side with the other person, and you legally don't think that's right, I guess that's your recourse.
Okay. One other point I want to make is Jason stated that I'm renting it a lot the entire summer. Well, I own this with 4 of my brothers. Each of us get it 1 week of the summer. There's 4 months of summer. Each of us get it 1 week of the summer. Either I'm there my week, or my family's there, a relative, a co-worker's there my week. I use HomeAway.com that used to be free. I've used that for 15 years to track who is there. So I can go out there right now and show you that I had a block last night because I was sleeping there last night. I'm going to be out here next week. I have a block for there. Being blocked, the date's blocked on HomeAway.com does not mean I'm renting it, every single night of the week. That means one of us are there. If my brother's going to be there next week, he goes out there and marks it blocked. So I know, if I want to go out there, I can't. One of my brothers or somebody's going there, So
I'll
I don't know
stop you
who's there.
again. So if you are just renting it to your family and it's just a rental, then don't put it on vacation home rental.
Well, but if that's how we tell if it's blocked. I mean, that's our tracking thing. I mean, I'm just saying, just for just because it shows it's blocked.
Well, I'm just
200
saying,
nights a week
I
or
think the
you're
whole
just-
issue with vacation home rental, if you took it off and just said it's a rental and I'm using it for my family, you're not gonna have, you're not coming to us for a CUP and you're not doing a PUD
Well,
issue or change.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Which we do, most of it is family and home, but the reason I use that is because it's really, really hard to get anybody in there for Sturgis Week. You can rent for 14 nights a year free, and it's really hard to find somebody to rent it for Sturgis Week if you're not out on a site like that. So, it costs me a couple $100 a year to use their site to advertise it for Sturgis.
Well, we have rentals and, we don't put ours on site for that and we have no problems. There's Craigslist and all kinds of things, so
Yeah,
you don't have to be on a VHR to do that, sir.
You're not 25 miles from Hill City and 25 miles from Deadwood on a gravel road either. So it depends on where you are.
Thank you.
So, but to clarify, I mean, the reason that we're reviewing this is because it's a PUD, and that this change does affect the others. If this was still zoned general agricultural and it was your property,
Right.
I don't think there'd be
Yeah,
any
no,
issues.
I understand that.
So, I think the commission taking the time to back up a second here, understanding the contentious nature of what's being requested and then the concerns of the neighbors is completely applicable and the right thing here to make sure that everyone here is well informed to make the decision they need to make.
Okay.
So,
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So as far as, I've been doing it for family and friends, so it's just been probably 80% of who is there. Am I allowed to have them pay me for electricity or power, or, I keep the cabin stocked with cleaning supplies, everything else. Am I allowed to? I mean, if I wasn't allowed to do vacation rentals, am I allowed them to pay me for resources they're using at my cabin, or is that considered rental yet?
You'd have to ask a lawyer. I don't,
No,
we don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, if my brother-in-law is going out there and he's going to pay me $50 because he's out there for a week in January and running the furnace and then using, am I going to get in trouble? I'm just questioning, am I going to be in trouble because he paid you, now you're renting? because he paid you for the electricity.
I'd say in common sense, if it's your family, like I was telling you, don't call it a vacation home rental.
Right.
If you're renting to individuals to come in, that's what's called a vacation home rental.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Well,
You keep referring to your family coming in. So if
well,
it's your
that's-
family, it's common sense that you're gonna let your family use your cabin and you're not gonna, I don't know if you
That's
charge them
why
for
I'm
the
here,
cleaning
because,
supplies or whatever.
and I've been telling Jason that for years, is most of who is there is friends and family and acquaintances. I've owned the place for 15 years. It started out as, I can't get out here in the summertime because my daughter plays competitive softball, but, when you go year round and, you get in the winter months and you can't get out here for a month at a time, if your water pipes freeze, you don't know it, and you got water running for a month. If I can find a relative and say, hey, you're going out, don't stay in a hotel room, go stay at my cabin instead. That's what I've been doing, and that's what I've been telling him I've been doing forever. And it's friends and family, and I'm not telling you that I haven't booked it for Sturgis Week, and I haven't booked it, if I find somebody off the street that I don't know. It's like a friend of a friend of a friend that I don't know, and he says, hey, my buddy's going out, would you rent it to him?
So, sir, what's happening is this gonna be continued, it sounds like, if this board votes that? And then the next thing that comes in, like we said, it's a conditional use permit, and the other neighbor has a say in this.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you, sir.
Further questions?
I would just like to make a statement. The more evidence you provide either way, either side, the better it is for us to make an informed decision before we move forward.
And that information that you shared today on your dates, when you moved in and when that covenant, that needs to be submitted.
How do I go about submitting them? Okay.
Staff, you can get it to staff upstairs after the meeting and they can make copies of it.
Copy 'em?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming up today, though, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else in the audience wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, motion is to continue item 10 to the March 23rd, did I get the date right? Meeting, to allow staff to contact the third lot owner and the PUD. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. I have us going to item 7 now. Is that gentleman here?
Yes, he's, sorry, Cody Sack, environmental planner again. I just wanted to give a little background on this. So this was approved sorry, this is a different one. December 2nd of 2019. He's allowed 6 months for hauling gypsum. So obviously we're at 3 months now, and then he's got another 3 due to weather and some other stuff. He wants to request some additional time. So.
Hello, I'm Cody Schad. Yeah, I guess that's it. We would just like to request some additional time to be hauling that due to some issues we've had. We haven't been able to haul much of that waste away, and yeah, I guess we'd just like to get more time on that.
And I'll just state that, sorry, Chair, that Cody did tell us at the meeting when we had our review as a commission that he would probably be coming back to ask for more time for that hauling because of weather permitting and other things in order for him to keep getting his stuff out of there, his piles of gypsum. So to be up straight, he did tell us that he'd probably be coming back for that because of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Kathy.
So I just want to be clear, so condition 5, it says, under the recommendation, the excavation and hauling of gypsum from the site terminate June 2020. Is June the extended time, or are you asking to extend it beyond June?
June would be the 6 months from the December 2nd meeting, so he'd be asking to extend it past that date. And I forgot to mention, in the report, there's a bunch of site visits that staff did from complaints and everything. Staff went out there, didn't verify really any of the complaints. I stated at the meeting that I would never say that no dust left a construction site. I could never say that. But from the counties, from our standpoint, me as the person who goes out and inspects the site, I've had no issues with with the site. And the applicant has contacted us when we've asked him to contact us and get us the things that we need. So he does work with us. So.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
back to condition 5, then what date are you proposing to put in there?
Could we extend it a year?
Cody, can you tell us why?
Yeah,
Well, so basically we've only had 2 days of hauling just because we went through a huge ordeal with one of the neighbors making up a bunch of complaints on anything he could do to get it shut down, and then they were able to do so with MSHA, and so it's delayed it. So we really haven't got much of anything done. It wouldn't necessarily have to be that long if we could, if something comes up with bad weather or issues where we could maybe extend it one more time later, or extend it again, or have that open. It wouldn't have to be that long, but
Maybe till the end of the summer or something. Usually
yeah,
you'll be able to haul during the summer,
Yeah.
something like that, instead of a full year. Plus, to be respectful to the neighbors, they kind of want an end date of what you're gonna be doing, and I think a year is a long time, Cody, to be up straight.
okay, yeah. And a big part of the year thing was just because the winter was the best time for the neighbors and everything to do it with the roads being frozen. Um, but yeah, we can make it work to do the summer
Do
thing.
you extend it from March till September or something like that,
Yeah.
6 more months?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Karen.
Cody, are there that graveled road that goes out there, are there road restrictions in the spring when it gets soft on that road? Load restrictions?
Um, a lot of roads would have load restrictions through the spring.
Uh-huh,
With
yes. Is that road among those ones that?
it probably it. I don't know, but most likely, yeah, I would say it would, but I can't tell you for
Yeah,
sure
for
because
sure,
I
I
don't
see,
know.
okay, all right.
So the spring, we probably wouldn't be able to, when the thaw comes out, we wouldn't be able to do much hauling, but then after the ground stables up again,
Yeah, all right,
then I suppose we could in the summer.
yeah.
So as this sits now, the recommendation is that this would be, the excavation and hauling of the gypsum from the site terminate June 2020, and then that this mining permit be reviewed in 3 months from approval date and may be reviewed on a complaint basis. So I do agree with some of the comments that 1 year is a long time, and I think it would be better for us to put a date on here today that everyone can agree with and that you think you're comfortable with, and then put a review on this to correlate with that time frame. That way, that'll allow for things that can come up during that time frame. That if this needs to be adjusted, it can. But I think that we should set a target and move forward towards that.
So staff would say to terminate in September and still keep that review for 3 months. That review in 3 months will be June. June weather gets nicer, it starts raining. It's a good time to review the site and make sure that all erosion and sediment controls are there. And with the previous complaints of the neighbor, we still would like to keep that review on there just in case, but we would say to extend it out another 6 months from today and keep that review for 3 months for that June meeting.
Are you agreeable to that, Mr. Shad?
Yep, that'd be fine.
Okay. I see that. Did I see a hand come up in the? Oh, okay. Any other questions? My last set of questions is a few weeks ago, some neighbors were in here and they were upset about some of these things. What have you done to address their concerns from a dust standpoint and the transmission of the dust and the hauling and those types of things?
Well, so I guess we haven't had any dust come off the site since I guess we went through the last meetings here with the complaints and you had the video. So it's just been water. The soils have been frozen with the water, so they're pretty stable. So and now we have all this moisture, so it's keeping it weighted down. In the future, though, we will, if something dries up, thaws out, we will have water on it to keep the dust down.
Okay.
So.
I don't have any further questions. So at this time, staff is recommending approval of the extension of mining permit 19-03 with 6 conditions, noting that item 5 is now September 2020 instead of June 2020. And we keep item 6 as is. Is that correct, Cody? Okay.
I so move.
Second.
Motion and second on agenda item 7. Further discussion? Seeing none. And sir, you did not want to speak on this item, correct? You're on a separate item that we'll take in open business. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We are on item 11.
Okay, Cody Sack, Environmental Planner. The following items have been placed on the construction permit agenda to be heard for public comment and will not be voted on by the planning commission. Any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member may comment on any of the items. Comments received will be considered by the planning director, who will make the final decision on the construction permit. Item number 11 is construction permit 20-05. For RCS construction, it's to replace riprap soil and rock to be restored washout on banks and bridge abutments in the Hart Ranch Golf Course. One thing that staff would like to just say is that at the time of this report, a floodplain development permit hadn't been submitted to the office. They submitted and paid for the permit on Thursday or Friday. So they do have that in, and it's going to be reviewed by our floodplain manager.
Okay. Any questions for Cody on this item? My question and maybe concern is just when we're reviewing the floodplain development permit, as I read this and understood this, they're planning on just doing stabilization measures. They're not planning on changing channel geometries and any of those things.
Correct. From my understanding, talking with the applicants, is that last year with all the water, some areas got a little washed out, and they're just returning with riprap that it would be the same dimension. They're just returning it with riprap to stabilize those banks so it doesn't continue to wash out.
Okay. Thank you. Brings us to item 12, the county board report.
The Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from the February 24th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Any questions on that?
I'd just like to say, I believe you guys bent the process very well through the Planning Commission, and we thank you. A lot of our determination is based on a lot of what you guys say and what you guys do. And by the time a lot of times it gets to us, the facts and the information have been presented. So we appreciate all the questions and the things that you guys do as commissioners. And again, thank you for serving, and we appreciate what you do here.
Thank you.
And the staff.
Item 13, items from the public. Mr. Campbell, if you would like to come forth and state your name for the record. We have some concerns about, it's not on the agenda, but it's 1416 Radar Hill Road project.
Ray Campbell. I just wanted to see if you guys were aware of what Box Elder is planning. They're looking at putting in a federal grant for $30 million to redo Radar Hill Road in 1416. They had a town hall on the 4th, and they said that there was no representation from the county there at all. So I was just kind of seeing where you guys were, and are you invested in this, or kind of what direction has the county taken?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
So they've been asking the highway department, basically, and the chair and the vice chair of the county, if they would go in on this grant.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've been working on with them. At this time, I'm speaking for the highway, the money that we have in order to do the projects we have already is already been spoken for. So at this point, there has been no determination by the county if they were going in or doing anything with it. That's why probably they said at this time the county has no voice in this. They're moving forward. They're trying to decide what they want to do. 1416 is actually Pennington County. We have some roads in that area. So that's why we are looking at, anything we can get to get us prepared for what's happening next. So we have been meeting with them, but we have not made any determination that we are moving forward with that grant.
Okay.
So you know that, we have been talking, but we're not in with the grant process at this time.
Okay. But the one concern, I guess, from everybody that was at the meeting, as far as residents are concerned, was KLJ, I think, is the commission that was put together to do the studies, and they brought up how many accidents over the last decade were in that area, and they pinpointed all the intersections of the corridor. And one in particular is the 1416 Radar Hill Road, and just exiting Radar Hill Road onto 1416 at that first corner, there was 187 accidents within that 10-year time frame. Now, if you cross the median to the other side, there was another 88 accidents going on to 1416. And then also coming from the other direction, there was another, I think it was 40 or so accidents just in that one intersection. So I asked if just my family had an accident there this past winter, and the police department didn't do a report because they estimated the damage would be under $2,000. There was no injuries, that kind of stuff. So I asked if that was counted. So it wasn't. So if you look back at the history of all their dispatch calls, you could probably say we're missing probably 70% of that data. And that's just a rough guesstimate between talking to the residents and the accidents they've seen there that was never reported, but you can pick it up on the police dispatch reports. So there's a big concern in Box Elders that can we at least look at getting stop signs put in that area or reduce the traffic speeds to help, of course, when it's winter, you expect everybody to drive safely, but just coming off of 90, and I think we'd lost an intersection or interstate on ramp, off ramp over by where the Pizza Hut is. And I think the traffic was reflowed so that you can get onto the base pretty quick and then off the base pretty quick. But there was no address of people crossing those intersections. And it's really, when you look at 6 or 8 buses lined up on Raider Hill Road, about 40 or 60 cars every morning, and to see the near misses every single day. Just maybe reducing the speed limits and possibly putting some stop signs in that intersection to make it all-way stops would help, mitigate a lot of the problems we're having.
Well, sir, I appreciate personally that you brought this up because about 1 o'clock I am going to the highway department to meet with them with some other issues, but I will look into this. And people know here that when I say something, I will do it and look at the accidents and anything that we can work with in between this grant as they want to move forward with to do something now that would hopefully make a difference for the residents out there. So
But
maybe
I
we can
think the
find some
grant's kind
solution.
of reaching, because that's a pretty big grant, and I don't know who's kind of helping them out. Is the governor, when you're looking for $30 million from the government, is the governor involved? I don't know. But really, it comes down to, for the residents, let's make that an all-way stop.
Well,
That's just common sense.
why we would get involved as commissioners or even as a highway department is to put maybe some money in the study, because even if they didn't get their grant and we did the study, Pennington County can use that study in order to improve their roads based on, all the information that was gathered from that
Right.
study. So if that moves forward, that's the reason why, is because we can use that study or that design no matter what as Pennington County to help those roads. So
Sir,
Yes. Oh,
have you brought your concerns to the highway department yet? Are they aware of your
No,
concerns?
we haven't. Just sitting with the city and KLJ on March 4th, listening to the small study they did, really just kind of stirred up the community. So
Okay.
I don't know where we're at as far as the rest of that goes. So
Okay. Well, Deb will discuss with the highway department, but just thinking out loud here, there are additional ways, so I agree that the study should be done that documents the facts of what's happening right there. And then, based on that, sometimes there's funds available through the local government, function, or local government entity, the Department of Transportation. I don't know, but normally they go to pay for those types of things, so. Thank you for bringing those concerns up.
Mr. Chairman.
Travis, you had a question?
Yes. We went through several years ago, I live in New Underwood, and there was an intersection at New Underwood that there was an issue at, or at least I felt there was an issue at. I took it to the city council. They came back to me and said Department of Transportation wasn't gonna do anything. I called Department of Transportation, gave my studies and my facts. They actually did come out and do a study, just for me, pushing on them. Maybe not just for me. I mean, there must have been other people that called. I don't think I'm that powerful, so don't take it that way. But they did come out there, they did do a study, and they eventually did change that intersection down there. It took about a year, and they did 2 different studies on that. So it will take some time, but I know if you're calling, if you're giving them factual information, they're gonna hear that. And of course, hearing Deb talking about it too, that, they're gonna get kind of some discussion in a different manner as well. But that's how I started it for New Underwood's dangerous intersection, and they got changed, so.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Took my agenda away from in front of me here. Next item is building permit report, items from staff.
Good morning again. The building permit report, it looks like we're pretty much on track for what we were in 2019. Our valuation is a little higher this month. If you notice, there was a large amusement structure, about almost $1 million in an amusement structure that's being built off of Highway 16. So that's reason for that big jump in the
Okay.
totals. So other than that, we're on
Further
track.
questions? Seeing none. Items from the membership.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, how are we coming with the search for PJ's replacement? Is that the gentleman in charge?
I'll let him answer that question.
John?
Is anybody applying? Does anybody want the job?
Morning, Commissioners. John Morrow, Pennington County Human Resources. So no, thank you for actually asking about that, Sandy. The decision was made probably a month and a half ago, or possibly 2 months ago, to actually suspend the search and actually allow and actually invite Brittany to continue in that position through the summer. And at the point that we get through that process, make a determination as to whether or not she'll continue in that position permanently, or there'll be a new search started at that point.
That's real interesting. I had had a conversation with her, and it's interesting, your comments versus the conversation I had, so
You bet.
thank you.
You bet. No, I welcome the questions. Thank you so much.
Further questions? Okay, thank you. I would just note that I am likely gone on April 13th. I fly in late that night before. Not sure that I will be here in time. So, and I think Sandy is a maybe on April 13th. So.
Yeah, I'm uncertain. I believe that I will be here, but I may not be.
Anything else?
Yes, I actually, once you mentioned the 13th, I was going to talk about it next meeting, but yeah, the 13th, I actually fly out. I might actually be able to be at the meeting. I think my flight leaves at 12:30 that afternoon because I have a conference in Washington State. Yes, where coronavirus is at. I have a conference there. But I may be at the meeting. It depends on the calendar, so I may come here and then leave in the middle of it.
Which date?
On the 13th.
13th, too? Okay.
Yeah, because I think my flight leaves at 12:48.
You might be able to bring just 2 commissioners in, regular.
Are you going to Seattle?
I am going to Seattle for a medical conference, and I know I said I was like, but I'm okay with it.
Okay,
They're
good.
not planning on canceling the conference at this point.
Sit over there by Sunny.
When I come back, sit over by Sunny, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Sunny,
Wash your
what do you
hands
have to say
lots.
about that?
Don't touch the
Oh.
surface, Sunny. Don't touch any surface or let him breathe on you,
We'll know by then.
Any other items from the membership this morning?
buddy.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
There's donuts over here, guys. Eat them. Brittany, if not, take them to your
when I come back
people.
from